You're scrolling your phone in bed. Doors shut, blinds down. Nobody on earth knows what you're looking at right now. You take that for granted. For nearly all of human history, that moment didn't exist. So how did people survive 300,000 years without a single locked door? How did couples ever get a moment alone? How did anyone use the bathroom in front of an entire tribe? And why, now that we finally have all the privacy we could ever want, are we lonelier than any generation before us? Short answer, they didn't need a door.
Long answer, they built privacy out of thin air. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the thing you can't live without might be the thing that's quietly wrecking you. Start with the basic math. Hunter-gatherer bands ran somewhere between 20 and 50 people, and they didn't spread out, they clustered. One fire, one clearing, bodies close enough to share body heat at night. There was no spare hut for alone time. If you were upset, the whole group heard it in your voice before you said a word. If a couple wanted to be intimate, there was no wall to muffle it. Everyone knew.
And yet, anthropologists who've spent decades embedded with groups still living this way keep finding the same workaround over and over in totally unrelated parts of the world. The first tool was darkness. Most private moments were pushed to the hours after the fire died down, when the group was asleep or close enough to it. You didn't need 4 walls if you had 4 hours of night. The second tool was distance, used sparingly. Step too far from the fire and you're leaving the one thing standing between you and a predator. So couples didn't vanish, they drifted. 30, 40 feet into the dark was functionally invisible, and the group let it be.
The third tool is the one that actually explains everything: mutual pretending. Anthropologist Colin Turnbull lived among the Mbudi in the Congo rainforest for years. He reported something strange when he tried to ask about privacy. There wasn't a clean word for it in their language. Not because the concept was primitive, but because it wasn't organized around walls. It was organized around agreement. People simply agreed not to notice things they were fully capable of noticing. You've done a version of this yourself, in a shared tent or a crowded locker room. You look away not because you can't see, but because looking away is the actual social contract.
The same logic ran the bathroom situation. No outhouses, no doors, just a spot downwind of camp that everyone used and nobody watched. It's the same unspoken rule that governs a modern public restroom. Other people are 2 feet away, everyone can hear everything, and everyone acts like they can't. Sleep worked the same way, except it wasn't optional. It was survival math. Cold nights, roaming predators, a fire that needed tending through the dark. Piling together wasn't a preference, it was thermodynamics. At a 23,000-year-old site called Ohalo II on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, archaeologists uncovered brush shelters barely large enough for a family to lie down in, shoulder to shoulder. That wasn't an isolated case. Go forward tens of thousands of years, and you find the same layout in medieval European cottages, where an entire family, sometimes 3 generations, slept in a single room, often a single bed. Kids getting their own bedroom is not an ancient tradition. It's barely 100 years old. So if none of this ever changed, if humans went hundreds of thousands of years agreeing to just look away from each other, what finally broke the pattern? What made the first door possible? Agriculture. Around 10,000 years ago, people started farming instead of following food. They had a reason to stay put, and staying put meant building something permanent. Permanent meant walls. Walls meant, for the first time in the species' history, a door you could physically close. But even then, privacy stayed a luxury item for a long time. Only households with real wealth got separate sleeping rooms. Everyone else was still packed into one-room homes with the whole family. The idea that privacy is something every person is simply owed, that's a modern invention, only a few hundred years old, dressed up to look ancient.
And here's the question that actually matters. Once ancient humans finally had the option to be alone, did they even want it?
Here's the part that's genuinely uncomfortable to sit with. It's not obvious ancient humans even wanted what we call privacy. Psychoanalyst Erich Fromm made the case that the craving for solitude is tied to individualism, a sense of self that exists apart from the group. In a band-level society, your identity wasn't separate from the tribe. It was made of the tribe. Being physically alone didn't feel peaceful. It meant you'd lost your food-sharing network, your defense, your entire safety net in one move. Isolation wasn't a retreat. It was closer to a death sentence, which makes today's situation a strange kind of inversion.
We built more privacy than any humans in history have ever had. Separate bedrooms, closed doors, entire days without seeing another person's face. And loneliness didn't go down. It became one of the defining health problems of the century. Ancient humans never solved privacy with architecture. They solved it with an agreement. Timing, distance, and a shared decision to look away. They didn't need to disappear behind a door because who they were had never been separate from the people around the fire. We got the door. We're still working out what it cost us.